All right, good morning, YouTube. I'm out here on my porch. I've spent, well, I don't know what time it is, but I've been out in the garden since probably about 8 o'clock this morning. It's the first time it's been cool enough. It's the first time that I've been feeling strong enough to do it. I'm thinking maybe the third course of antibiotics is finally working for the Lyme disease. I'm starting to feel like I have more energy, so that's good. But this is the most time I've been able to spend in the garden so far. I have been coming out and doing like maintenance, like fertilizing and harvesting and things like that. But today I took out a lot of the dead, the plants that had gone over. I took out 3 or 4 squash plants and some cucumber plants that had passed their prime and were kind of pest eaten and that kind of stuff. And I figured I would do an update on a few things. I had did a video earlier in the year about my favorite garden tools, and I had done another video on the Rogue hoe that was sent to me so that I could see how I liked it and see how my hand is shaking, and see how I felt about it and give you guys an honest opinion on it. And it's been a few weeks. It's probably been about a month now. I've been using it daily, and well, let's get right into it. So I've realized, and you realize the more you do any kind of work, you're going to develop preferences for tools. When I first learned carpentry, my go-to pair of pliers was a pair of linesman's pliers, because that's what my ex-father-in-law always used, and he swore by them. They were the pliers that he always went to. So for the first year or so, that's what I used, and then I found bullnose pliers, and those are the pliers that I use. And you develop those preferences the more you use tools. And I came from doing primarily container gardening like that. You can see there I've got some green onions or bunching onions and some celery, which actually reminds me I have to water and fertilize those. And I'm going to do that after the video. But I was very used to using smaller hand tools because I'm always in containers. And for years, the only real time I would use long-handled tools was in tending my compost. The compost that I had in Warwick was in a big bin, and the compost that I have here is well, you guys have seen it. It's in a pile over there. Actually, the bin that I built is still being used by the people who bought the house from the landlord who sold the house out from under us. And so is the raised garden bed that I used there, because we've driven by it and I've seen that they're using it. So without further ado, I'll get into this. The tools that I've really developed a preference for in working in this garden, in an in-ground garden, are going to be as follows. There's 3 of them, and one of them has always been one of my favorite tools. I have always loved this long-handled, it's probably, well, let's see, I'm putting it up to myself, it's probably 5.5 feet long, the handle. This long-handled cultivator. I bought it at Walmart for maybe 15 bucks, and it's just, you can see it's a four-pronged cultivator. It has a 5-year warranty that it's probably well past now, but it's just a no-name tool, and you can even see it kind of bent a little there, probably on a rock or something. But this is one of my most used tools. I turn my compost with it. I make all of the mounds in the garden beds, in the garden, the outdoor garden with it. And I find it incredibly useful. I really, really enjoy it. I really enjoy using it. With the problems that I have with my back, it works very well because it's so long. Now, the next tool that I use is the one that you guys have seen, the one that I was sent very nicely by Rogue Hoe. You can see I've done quite a bit of sharpening on it. I sharpen it just about every time I use it. And that's nothing against the tool. It's just I like a really sharp hoe. I've always liked a really sharp hoe to cut through weeds, to cut through stalks and stuff like that I'm breaking up for the compost. But what I have found that this thing excels at, where I found I really like this, is this front pick here. Now, if you'll come over here with me, like you have a choice, if you come over to the garden, you can see what I did today. I broke in this bed here, this mounded bed here. I broke it in, and that's all rabbit poop in there from the rabbits. And I made that little trench in it with that pick end, and it was. That's what I find it is really useful for, making the trench where I'm going to plant the next crop. And the other end that's wide like that is really good for breaking up weeds and breaking up grasses that are basically weeds that grow in there. And I find it to be honestly a lot more useful than I expected it to be. This tool has become one of the 3 that I use daily in the garden, and I'm not just saying that because they sent it to me for free. It really is a hell of a tool, and I really enjoy using it. My only complaint is that with my back, I do wish the handle was a little bit longer, but at the same time, it allows me to get in between, like the corn stalks in there. It's easier to use. It's less to swing around. And I do find it to be a very good tool. I like that it's a fiberglass handle. It's not getting splintery. I do like wooden handles, like I said, on my hammers and my axes and stuff like that. But as far as stuff that I'm using in the garden daily, I want it to be a fiberglass handle, and I really do. I really have come to like this tool. I really enjoy it, and I'm really impressed by it. So that's what I think of that. It's a very good tool. It's surprisingly easy to sharpen too. I thought with it being the discs from harrowers from the farm equipment, that it would be really heat treated and really strong and really hard to get at with a file. But I just use this. It's a cheapy Harbor Freight file. I think a set of them was like $7-8, and it works great. It gets a good edge on it, and it sharpens up nicely. And like I said, I really want that tool to be sharp, and I keep it sharp with very few problems, with no real problems actually. And finally, I have changed from, I showed you guys that folding hawkbill knife. I just found it really unwieldy to open it up, close it, open it up, close it. So what I started doing is this is a Buck 685. It's a fixed bladed knife, and I have the little clip on it. I just hang it on a belt loop because I don't wear a belt. And it stays very sharp all the time, and you don't have to close it. It's fixed bladed. It cuts through everything I need it to: stalks, twine, you name it. I cut it with this. I whittle stakes with it to make stakes in the garden. And it's a very good knife. I really like it, and this has become my go-to knife in the garden, around the yard, that kind of stuff, because I don't have to fold it, I don't have to close it, I don't have to really worry about it. I just put it back in the sheath, which I'm doing now. And it's got a little snap on it that of course I can't close now because I want to do it. And I just wear this on a belt loop. So these are the 3 tools that I find my work style in the garden has evolved into really favoring. I find that with these three tools, I can get quite a bit done. I can really reduce the amount of time that I'm spending on gardening tasks so that I can do other things. With the little hand tools, I mean, I still have the bucket and I still use those things, but not nearly to the degree that I was. My work style in the garden has evolved to using these three tools and being very comfortable using these three tools. The only thing that I would add to this would probably be the long-handled watering wand that I've showed you, and a metal watering can, a 3-gallon metal watering can that I use to do different liquid fertilizer. So these are what I find the most useful for my style of garden laboring, and they're probably going to be what I continue to use. I mean, I've used the long-handled cultivator for years, and this I think I've kind of found my stride as far as an in-ground garden, especially with the fact that I'm going to be expanding the garden. You've got the garden there, and then you see our front yard. This whole area here, I'm going to expand into next year and do more, a bigger area for the garden so that I can grow more food. So that's just a quick video on what I've found that I really like to use, and I hope that you find that helpful. I hope there's a little white moth flying around over there in the sun. I hope that you find that helpful. I hope that it was useful, and if you are considering the Rogue Hoe, the F55A42 is what I have. That's its part number, and I do quite enjoy it. I quite like using it. So I hope wherever you are comfortable and that God is with you. Thank you.